some of the best piece of advice that he gave me, which kind of helped shape and accelerate my career growth, was he said, you need to treat your career and your personal life like a business, right? And what he means by that is, you are Kerel Cooper Inc., right? That means everything from how you show up, your brand, how you manage your money, like all of those things. Treat your life like a business, and you will figure out sort of like the efficiencies and where you need to improve, so on and so forth.
We'll discuss race and how it plays a factor, and how we didn't even talk about this topic because we were afraid.
A Black Executive Perspective.
We are coming to you live from the new BEP studio for another thought-provoking episode of a Black Executive Perspective podcast, a safe space where we discuss all matters related to race, culture, and those uncomfortable topics people tend to avoid. I'm your host, Tony Tidbit.
And I'm your co-host, Chris P. Reed. We'd like to always start off our episodes by giving a shout out to our partners at Code M Magazine. Code M Magazine, where their mission is saving the Black family by first saving the Black man. That's CodeMMagazine2Ms.com. Check them out.
Definitely check them out. And today we want you to check out what we have, right? Today we're going to delve into the life and career of Kerel Cooper, CMO at GumGum and co-founder of the Minority Report podcast. We'll explore the pivotal experience and mentors that shaped his journey, discuss his passion for mentoring and empowering others, and gather his expert advice on reaching your full potential in both professional and personal realms.
Before we get too far into the episode, let me give you a little background. Kerel Cooper is the Chief Marketing Officer at GumGum, a leading contextual first digital advertising platform. He oversees marketing strategies that enhance the brand's presence and increases engagement without relying on personal data. Very important in these times, right? Kerel also teaches digital and sports marketing as an adjunct professor at Kean University. With over 20 years in digital media, Kerel has held key roles, including president of advertising at Group Black and CMO of Live Intent. He's co-founder and co-host of the Minority Report podcast, spotlighting diverse leaders in business, media, and technology. Recognized for his leadership, Kerel was named a notable Black leader by Crain's New York Business and received the Adweek Reader's Choice Best of Technology Diversity Advocate of the Year Award, among other accolades in 2021. Kerel Cooper, welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast, brother.
Thank you for having me, Chris, Tony. Chris, I got to have you just intro me all the time. Right? No matter how I'm on stage, whatever I'm doing, Chris, I got to pay you just to bring you along with me.
Them were just the words, you did the deeds, right? So tell us a little bit about where you are residing currently, your family, a little bit of that.
Yeah, sure. So I am born and raised in New Jersey. I'm a Jersey guy. I've always lived in New Jersey, never lived anywhere else. Currently in Edison, New Jersey, where I've been for the last 21 and a half years. Been married that long, 2 girls, 16-year-old and 7-year-old girl. And yeah, that's where I'm at, Edison, New Jersey.
Buddy, that is awesome. And wait a minute, 21 years of marriage?
Oh, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, though, man. Did you have an afro when you first started? You know what I'm saying? And then, was that just, you look good, though, regardless, right? And obviously, you wouldn't be successful if you didn't have a very lovely wife who's right there beside you, which is great.
Absolutely.
Having 2 kids, that is awesome, my man. Real quick question, though. One of the things that's going on, especially in New Jersey, is these drones flying over, people going crazy. Have you experienced that at all, my man?
I did actually just this past weekend. They were in my area and saw a couple of them with my own eyes. And it's amazing to see, amazing and terrifying to see the sky lit up with just multiple drones, and you have no idea where they came from, what they're doing, and what they're after.
That makes you would think that all you got to do is somebody's flying these, okay? And you should be able to, just eliminate everything and figure out who's flying them, right?
Yeah.
But, and we're talking about,
I have to think that our government has some level of intelligence on it. Has to.
buddy,
Has to.
we're talking about going to Mars, and we can't figure out somebody flying drones over New Jersey.
Right.
It's not gonna matter until they start taking the pets and taking the children.
They're eating the dog.
That's right.
I mean, just what I'm hoping it is. Just tell me is Amazon testing out a pilot
Testing out the-
program?
yeah.
Hey, just tell me that.
Say that.
I don't think that's what it is, but
Of
just
course
tell me
not.
that.
But say, come up with something.
Right.
But listen, man, the one question we have for you, my brother, like I said, number one, you're very accomplished. You're very busy, man. You're a CMO of a major tech firm. You have your own podcast, right? You have a family, you have kids, you are commuting, you're traveling, you're doing a lot of stuff. So the question I have for you, my brother, why did you want to come on BEP to share your story?
Well, I wanted to come on here to share the story because I think it's important for those of us who have had really good careers or continue to do the things that we like and have some level of success, that we share our stories with those out there who may be going through similar things that we've gone through early in our own careers, right? There's struggles which everyone has. There's success stories. There's things people learn. And one of the reasons why I love platforms like this, podcasting, is because it gives you the opportunity to reach a large audience and be able to share your story for those who want to hear it. Because there might be someone out there listening that can take bits and pieces from what I'm saying, whether it's, an area where I've had some success in or an area that I've struggled, and they can learn from it. And if I'm able to help someone else, then, I'm all about that.
Well, buddy, I love that about you, and I'm so glad you're here to share. So, hey, you ready to talk about it?
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk about it, my brother.
So every superhero has an origin story, right? So in the idea of what you would consider to be your origin story, what experiences or early, influences shaped you to choose this career? And how did you get to, where you are at this point? How did it all begin?
Yeah, sure. So, my career has taken some, let's call it interesting and non-traditional turns throughout, the course of the 25 years that I've been in ad tech and martech. I've had years of experience doing ad operations and leading operations teams, implementing new platforms and partnerships. I've done account management, product marketing, president of advertising at the company I was before GumGum at Group Black, where I helped lead and build out the commercial org. So sitting as a CMO today, I've taken a non-traditional path because most CMOs come up through the marketing ranks. I did not do that. I did not set out my career to be a CMO. I've always sort of set out my career in terms of I want to be in a position to lead teams. I want to be in a position to affect and impact change. And I want to be in a position to build high performing teams. And that's always been my goal. And that's why I've had so many different, leadership positions in different areas of the business, because for me, it was never about, I want to be, the head of operations, or I want to be the head of sales, or I want to be the head of marketing. It was always about like the opportunity to lead teams. And I think in our industry, so many times people get put in buckets, whether it's, that's a salesperson, or that's a marketing person. And I never wanted to be put in a particular bucket. I always just wanted to be seen as a leader, and I can put Kerel in any position. He will learn the subject matter, but at the same time, he knows how to build high performing teams, right? Early on in my career, one of my mentors was Kirk McDonald, who, was previously at Group M and other places. And I remember meeting with Kirk one time. Some of the best piece of advice that he gave me, which kind of helped shape and accelerate my career growth, was he said, you need to treat your career and your personal life like a business, right? And what he means by that is, you are Kerel Cooper Inc., right? That means everything from how you show up, your brand, how you manage your money, like all of those things. Treat your life like a business. and you will figure out sort of like the efficiencies and where you need to improve, so on and so forth. The other piece of advice that he gave me was to create a circle and surround myself with people who I was going through similar journeys with, because if you do that, then you can have people that you have things in common with,
Right.
and that can motivate you, that can challenge you, you can compete with, and you grow together. And I found that in the industry with three buddies of mine who we've become really good friends. We're all married. We all have kids. We're all in the industry, so on and so forth. So the two pieces of advice that he gave me, which really helped accelerate my career, was surround yourself with people that you're on a similar path with, and treat your career and your personal life like Kerel Cooper Inc., your business.
Right, right. That is awesome. And look, I used to work for Kurt briefly when I was at Xander. When
Okay,
I
you
started
know what
there.
I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Great
Yeah.
guy, great leader. One of the things when it comes down to leadership, my brother, sometimes it's the chicken or the egg, right? Is there a born leader or can you develop leaders? Okay. And one of the things that you really like to do is empower people,
Mm.
right? And help them reach a certain level of their potential, see the talent that they have inside them, and really help cultivate that and really help those individuals get to the next level, right? And whatever level that is for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, and I always call that a servant leader. Okay. That's somebody that's a leader that's willing to serve. Okay. That's willing to, shine the person's shoes, do whatever it takes to really help that person become successful. My question that I have for you, and going back to that chicken and egg, when you were a young kid, tell us a little bit about you, the person. Did you see yourself being in ad tech? Did you see yourself being a chief marketing officer? Did you see yourself helping others? Because evidently that came from somewhere. So share that with us, my brother.
Yeah. So early days, did not see that at all. I was a bit of a hothead when I was a kid growing up. I was a terrible student in high school as well too. I played baseball in high school, so I did well enough just so that I could, make the cut academically to play. I certainly did not see this at an early age. I will tell you, the pivotal moment for me was I was a senior in high school. I was literally told by my guidance counselor that I wasn't college material and that I should consider, maybe just going to a 2-year school or picking up a trade or something like that. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just telling
Right.
you what I was told, right?
I get it.
And I remember my senior year, my mom picking me up from school and saying, "Come on, we're going to go take a drive." And we went to Kane University, which I ended up going to school at. And we sat down in the admissions office in front of his name is Bruce McIntyre, black man with a bald head, coincidence. and he said to me right in front of my mom, he said, "You don't have the grades. I'm gonna let you into my school, but if you mess up, I'm gonna kick your you know what."
Right.
Right. And that was a pivotal moment for me because one, I had no idea what I was going to do coming out of high school. Right. That gave me a path to go to college. I ended up moving on campus, lived on campus. But Bruce, he didn't just let me into school and say that, right? His door was always open to me. I would meet with him probably a few times a month just to kind of check in. He helped me get my first job on campus, which helped, give me some responsibility. And as someone who, like I said, I was a hothead, had a bad temper, didn't do good in school, first time away from home, to have someone like Bruce, who was in many ways a big brother to me, and helped really show me, not tell me, but show me how you are supposed to carry yourself, how you're supposed to move in this world, right? That helped change, my course, right? I went on to be a resident assistant on campus. I was involved in student government on campus, and ended up, graduating with over a 3.0 grade point average as well
Right.
too.
Right.
So, it's that moment, and I have a few moments like that. It's that moment right there that really helped change my trajectory from coming out of school, high school, not knowing what I was going to do, where I was going to end up, to completing, getting a 4-year degree, starting in ad tech, eventually getting my master's degree, moving up, being a CMO now, and also, by the way, back on Kane University as an adjunct professor teaching now as well too.
Buddy, that is wicked.
I hope that
No,
answered your
no,
question,
it
but yeah.
answered it. But I got another question for you. Did you
Yeah.
go back to that college, to that counselor and say, how you like me now? All right. Who said that you wasn't going to make,
No,
well, didn't say you was going to make it, but didn't say that you could go to school or 2-year school, whatever the case may be.
I did not, but you know what I do every time throughout my career, if I went from sales assistant to manager to then director to then VP to then SVP and now in the C-suite, every one of those jumps I made, I thought about that moment.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Those things are important, my brother, is having a pivotal moment that changed you, right?
Yeah.
Change your direction. But what I'm hearing too, it was, and I would imagine this is where you started with your servantship.
Yeah.
Is when Bruce was a servant for you. He could have
Absolutely.
easily just said, hey, I'll let you in and then, I'll check you out in 6 months. Let's see how it happens. But what we're hearing is he stayed active. He didn't have to do that, right? There's 1,000 kids at that school, but he took you under his wing and he served you and he shared with you. And because he saw something in you, and then based on that, you started rising to your potential. Okay. And so is that why one of the reasons why is something that you love to give back in terms of helping others? Is that what we're hearing here?
That is absolutely the case. And I have a few more examples like that throughout my life and my career, but that was really one of the first ones. And because I went through that experience, right, I know that works for people, right? And so that's where I try to lean in. Absolutely.
It's time to rethink your protein. AgileLab's protein bars are crafted with high-quality protein, double the leucine, and enriched branched-chain amino acids, essential for optimal muscle recovery. Finally, a protein bar that works as hard as you do. So visit agilelabs.com and use the code BEP to get 20% off. That's agilelabs.com, promo code BEP.
Got it.
Let me ask you this, though, because I understand you obviously have a passion and you recognize potential in individuals, but being in a similar situation from a career trajectory, you had a desire and you started to do things to facilitate that desire, whether it be education or putting yourself open for opportunities to switch roles and things of that nature. But that doesn't always translate into opportunity. And early on, you said, I took this opportunity and that opportunity. How are you allowing for those opportunities? Was it a magic, like watching the baseball pitch? Did you just know when to swing? How did you align your desires with those opportunities? Because for those who are trying to be C-suite eligible, they say, well, damn, I'm doing this and that, like brother is doing all that. And man, ain't no brothers on the wall. I can't get a break.
Yeah.
So what was the combination that you utilized to get your break beyond the mentorship and you seizing moment?
Yeah. For me, I think there's a few things there, and I'm giving examples of what worked for me. That doesn't mean it's going to work in every situation, right? Mm-hmm. First things first is you have to consistently show up great. You just have to, right? Yeah. Consistency, no matter what you're doing in life, consistency is the key to that. And the more consistent you are in putting out and producing greatness, then the less times you give someone the excuse of why you can't move up or do something, right? So that level of consistency is super important. Networking is key as well too, big time. I tell people this all the time. I've been in this industry for 25 years, worked at a number of different companies. There's only one job that I've had that has come from filling out a job application, and that was my first one. Every other job, promotion, whatever you call it, has come from who you know, right? And that's the hard reality that people have to understand in this world. A lot of it is about who you know. It just is. I'm not saying I agree with it. That's just the way the world works, right? So who you know, you got to be ready for the opportunity. Someone once told me, you know, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? And I think that that's important too. Is if you know that there's an opportunity that you want, what are the things that you have to do to be ready when that opportunity presents itself, so that you can walk through those doors. So those are the things that I've always tried to sort of do in sort of my career. One other piece of advice, again, this comes from Kirk as well too. He told me early on, you know what, look at the people in our industry that are in positions that you may want, and research those people. Try to understand what they did to get into the position that they're in, and are there bits and pieces of what they did that you can take to add to your own game as well too, which is another piece of great advice he gave me once upon a time. Yep.
Right. That is awesome, man. So, but backing up though, and you know, you just ended on Kurt, and I'll back up to what you said that he told you years ago as being one of your mentors, is that you treat your career like a business. Okay. So if you treat your career like a business, then if you want to have a great business, you want to show up every day in excellence, right?
Yeah.
Right. Number two, you're going to network with everybody because you want everybody to know that you in business.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So
you gotta promote yourself too.
you gotta promote yourself.
No one's gonna be as big of a promoter of you as you. And sometimes I come across people that I mentor, and they get shy about talking about themselves and promoting themselves. They don't want to see cocky and arrogant, so on and so forth. And I get that. But again, no one is going to be as big of a cheerleader for you as you can be for yourself. And you have to market your abilities. You have to market your accomplishments. You have to get out there. I mean, before we started, Tony, you mentioned, you know, a good piece of social content that you saw me put out, right? And that is like, yes, I enjoy and like doing that, but that's me marketing myself as well too, right? No one else is going to do it for me.
I was just going to say, tell me a time, because it all seems really simple, and man,
it's not. It's not.
I mean, the way your whole demeanor is coming off like, man, this is a Tuesday for me. So in the idea of, and we've all gone through this, I'm sure, not only because we strive for excellence, but we've been Black in America for a long time, our whole lives, you know what I'm saying, things of that nature. But when they try to tiger-proof the course, tell me a time where those roadblocks were put up and you were able to overcome or circumvent those obstacles because somebody was seeing your light shine and wanted to purposely diminish that, because that can become devastating in the career path or in the aspirational pursuits of executives like yourself.
Yeah. I don't have a great example of someone purposely trying to dim my light, right? But what I will say is, I'll give you a scenario at a company that I used to work for in the past. I was leading the account management team there, and I was at the SVP level, and doing a really good job of leading that team. But the company was going through some changes internally, right? And wanted to kind of, you know, shake things up and move things in a different direction, as like a lot of companies do when they're growing, right? And so we had a massive reorg internally at the company, and I was asked to move from leading account management and go into another position, product marketing. And I initially thought of that as a setback in my career. I initially thought of that as, well, I'm doing a good job. Revenue's growing. No one's ever said anything sort of negative about the job that I'm doing. All my reviews have been great. Like, why am I being moved from this role, right? Um, I had a lot of conversations internally, and quite frankly, there was a period of time where I had some low morale. Didn't know if I wanted to stay at the company any longer, so on and so forth. Um, I ended up staying at the company and moving over into a product marketing role. What I didn't realize at the time is that, going back to what I said earlier about being a leader and I like to build high performing teams, so on and so forth. What I didn't realize at the time is the reason why I was being asked to move over is because the product marketing team at that particular point in time was not in a good spot. And they wanted me to move over and lead this team. But, again, I wasn't hearing that. I was hearing, what I was seeing and what I was hearing is you taking me off of a team, a global team of 40 people, and you're putting me over here, and I got to go build something from the ground. Like something doesn't seem right to me, right? One of the best decisions I ever made was staying at the company and building up that product marketing team, because that ultimately led to me leading all of marketing and becoming a CMO. The first time I ever got to the C-suite. But that's an example though of a time where my career is like going up, right? My career is going up. I went from director, VP to SVP, probably in the span of like 2 years, those moves. And then all of a sudden I'm going like this, and I feel like, I just lost an engine on my plane, right? And instead of quitting, instead of going somewhere else, I said, you know what? I'm gonna go here. Let me see what I can do, and let's see if this creates a new path for me, which it ultimately did. And so my advice to folks out there is take that situation and, don't put blinders on with your career. Always sort of weigh your options and see what's possible, and always take a step back when you think something is happening to you that is going to derail your career or slow it down. Take a step back and really think through all the different scenarios, because you never know. It could be a blessing in disguise, because again, I went into that position, ended up being CMO. What if I would have left that company and went and ran another account management team? I don't know how my career would have moved at that point in time. So I know that didn't answer your initial question the way you wanted it, Chris, but that's the example I got.
No, buddy. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, you saw it your way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing about it. You know what I'm saying? You saw it your way. Some people are so focused, they don't even see the haters. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, trust me, they was there. I'm not silly. They was there. You just like, man, like my man tells me all the time, when you in first, you don't know what's going on behind you. So,
and I think there's a couple other things though too, right? Because people, let's be fair though too, right? There have been people that have been in that same situation. Okay.
Yeah.
And they did move over.
Right.
They did have a great attitude, and they was willing to do it, and they looked at it as an opportunity, but it didn't turn into an opportunity.
Didn't turn into it,
because for whatever reason, right? So obviously, everybody's story is their story, but net. Okay. And here's the thing. When I used to be in the military, I wasn't, and one thing, when you become an officer, which I wasn't, I was an enlisted person, but when you become an officer in the Army, the one thing they want you to do is move around. Okay. So you may start off as the captain of or a lieutenant of an infantry platoon. Right. And then you may do that for 2-3 years, and then they move you to finance. Okay. And then all of a sudden you're a finance officer. Then they may move you somewhere else. And really the key is that at the end of the day, they want a person to be well versed for anything that comes up. Because if yes, if a war happens, you got to know this. But if you're well versed in how finance works, how intelligence works, how all these other things work, it puts their officers in the best position to be leaders and understand the whole pie
Yep.
versus just this sliver. And I think sometimes we get focused on our career and we always want it to be linear and we want to focus just in this one vertical. When at the end of the day, I'm going back to what Kurt McDonald's told you, right? That mentorship, which treat your brand like a business. So yeah, your business is marketing, but you got to know how to do a P&L too.
Yep.
You got to know how to be able to ship. You got to know, because that's all part of it. So I love the story, but also to the point, we have to look at things more from a broad scope if we're treating our career as a business. Now, the question I have for you, my brother, talk to us about mentorship, because you talked about, Bruce, and you talked about Kurt McDonald. Tell us about how you're paying it forward and what's your process in terms of being a mentor for other individuals.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about mentorship is because, again, I know it works because I've had mentors who have helped me along the way. What I try to do from a mentorship perspective. So there's a couple of things. One, naturally, I can be mentors to people that I hire that work for me, right? And are both of you guys football fans, sports fans?
Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Why
Okay.
are you even
All right.
on the podcast asking that question?
All right. So one of the things that always happens in football, right, when they talk about coaches, is they talk about the coaching tree, right? The legacy, right? Mm-hmm. I try to do that myself. As a matter of fact, I keep a Google Doc of my tree, people that I've either hired or helped along the way, and what successes have they gone on to. And I've got people there that have started their own businesses, got promoted, run, VPs, so on and so forth, right? So I bring that up because there's like three ways that I try to mentor people that I hire, that I have direct day-to-day contact with. One of the reasons why I got into teaching is so that I can mentor in the classroom as well too. Because one of the things I've realized about our industry in particular, the ad tech and martech industry, is no one goes to school for that. And there's a whole, multi-billion-dollar industry out there that these kids sitting in class have no idea about, right?
Correct.
So I try to bring that to the classroom and bring real world experience and expertise to the classroom. The other way I try to mentor, which I give people advice on this all the time, is mentorship doesn't mean that you have to have someone that you officially sit down with every week, so on and so forth, right? Mentorship can be, people just watching, right? Because that happens, for people that are in leadership roles, have to be aware of that. Everyone is watching you. They're watching how you carry yourself. They're watching how you react in meetings to positive things, negative things. They're watching how, if someone says something unpleasant to you, how you handle that. They're watching you all the time. And so for me, mentorship is the people that I hire that I'm in direct contact with on a day-to-day basis, the kids that are in my classroom that I have action with on campus, and then how I carry myself day to day, and holding myself to a certain standard so people are seeing how I move.
That is great, bro. That is awesome. So, one of the things though, when you talk about potential, give us a story of someone that you saw that was you, okay, in the car going to the college that your mother took you to, right? And tell us a little bit how you helped this individual or individuals or groups or whatever take it to the next level.
That's a good one. Let's see. So there's a student who was in one of my previous classes. black kid, black male, right? One of a few that were in one of my previous classes, right? That that I would talk with from time to time, either before class or after class, right? And I know for a fact that he was drawn to me because he saw, a black male, someone that looks like him
Right.
in a position of success,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
And I know that for him, that means something special for him.
Right.
I know that for him, he is looking at me and saying, okay, now I have someone, and I may not be the only one. He could have other,
Well, it
black
doesn't
men.
matter.
It's like,
Yeah. I get
yeah.
it. I get it.
But I know for a fact that when he asks me questions about the industry, when he comes up to me before class, when he comes up to me after class, when he's reached out to me on LinkedIn from time to time, I know that there's a little something extra there because it's black man talking to black man, right? And
Right.
again, he
Right.
sees someone who has had a good career and maybe something he aspires to do. So, when I interact with him, I make sure that he's feeling the love. I make sure that I have time for him because I know again that means something special to him.
How does that make you feel, though, bro?
It's two things. It is a joy and a pleasure, and it is also a responsibility that I feel that I have as well too. So it comes with responsibility. It comes with great honor though as well.
One of the things that I gravitate towards, and I have in the last 10 years, is peer mentoring. And you talked about you had some cats that you ran with and y'all made each other iron sharpens iron type thing. As you and I begin our peer mentoring relationship that I'm, prophesizing here, why is it important that brothers like us show that as an example to young brothers that we can get along, we can all eat, you know what I'm saying? And even though we might not, because one of the things that you said, there was no specificity in the realm of business that you exist in. So it doesn't have to be accounting folks talking to young accounting folks. Sometimes business leadership is agnostic. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so in the idea of explain why it's going to be so valuable for you and I, Tony and I, you and Tony, this triad, to continue to mentor and encourage each other.
Yeah, no, I think again, in our space, there still aren't many of us, right? There aren't many of us. And when you have a situation where there aren't many of us, I think we have a responsibility to each other to support and lift each other up, right? We just do. And there are others that, can help, but there's something special about, black men helping other black men. And I'm sure other cultures and races feel the same way about them helping each other. Right. And so that's why it's important. And, I used to say this phrase, a lot, and I hate it now because I want it to change. Right. And which is, coming up in my career, there would be many rooms where I would be the only one. Right. I'd be the only one in the executive room. I'd be, I don't want to say that anymore. My goal is to not say that anymore. Right. And so that's why, Chris, like it's super important for us to support each other, for us to help each other out, for us to challenge each other as well too. Right. And there's nothing wrong with us, competing with each other from a friendly perspective as well, because that helps. The competition is what helps as well.
Buddy, you just talked about iron sharpen iron, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing though, and I want to ask you, have you experienced this before? And then I want to ask you another question. So I've been in situations before, not a lot, right? Yeah. But I've been in a couple where I did see other Black leaders, African American leaders in our space, right?
Yeah.
And I, went to them, right? Being in a networking environment or whatever it was, right? And hey, how you doing? You was happy to meet? Or somebody said, hey, do you know blah, blah, blah? I'm like, oh, no, I didn't have it. And you go over there, right? And the same thing, the responsibility. There's only a few of us. Let's, break bread together. I love to learn and, vice versa. And I've had a few people like, put a stiff arm up, going back to your football analogy, right? I mean, they were friendly.
Yeah.
They wasn't what's the word I want to use? They wasn't open, right? They wanted to stay. And I have my own reasons why, but I never chatted with them on it.
Yeah.
But they kind of put up a stiff arm, right? And they wanted to not, embrace that. So have you ever experienced that at all?
No, I haven't. I have not experienced that.
Charmed life.
I'm happy to say that I haven't experienced it.
And that's good, and that's great.
Yeah, no, it is, and maybe we need to find those brothers who y'all experience with, and have a sit down with them.
But you know what? One of the things that happens is not to for you to keep cooking, but what happens a lot is we start looking around. It's just like people with money, right?
Yeah.
It's enough bread for us all.
It's enough. It really
but
is.
in the idea,
is.
We've gotten programmed to believe, hey, it's only enough room for a couple of brothers, on the floor, or a couple of brothers on the team. Or in fact, I told this story in an early podcast of ours where I was asked by a VP to take over the contract for a relationship it was like a $2 billion, portfolio. And I was like, so my boss came to me and was like, hey, he wants you to come. He wants you to come and take over the contracts for the fleet organization. And I said, let me talk to him.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And I go to him, I'm like, hey, bro, you just hired another brother. That's the executive director over here. And now you're trying to bring me over to the contract. It's going to be kind of extra black over here if we keep doing this. And he was like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. And but I'm big on the optics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm big on the optics.
Right,
so some people shy away from that because they don't want to make now other folks can do it all day, every day. Right. They can have family, everybody got the same last name and all that kind of stuff. But we have a tendency, once we get up to an upper echelon, to try to over rotate on the diversity.
Yeah.
And that's a tough balancing act. I'm not saying it's right or wrong or anything like that. But he was wise enough and knew I needed the right people in regardless. It's a situation where I remember on Blackish, he said, I want to be a vice president that happens to be black, not a black vice president.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, in those instances, I'm glad that you haven't had a situation where somebody's like, full. Brother, full over here. We got enough C-suiters that are black over here. So, but have you ever heard of that being a situation?
Oh yeah. Definitely have heard of it, right? And that's where, again, that's why I made the point to emphasize earlier that I'm tired of saying I'm the only one in the room.
Right.
Yeah. I definitely have heard of it.
And hopefully it's not even being tired of saying it. Hopefully it'll become an action, right? Yeah. So it won't even come up, right? Right. The question I have for you, though, my brother, and this is my final question for you, right? Obviously you've come on here. You've been very successful in what you've done thus far, and you still scratching the surface, my brother.
I'm not done yet.
You got 1,000 things that it's not even being done that you're going to do, right? However, one of the things we always see, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and I looked up to some friends of mine that I thought was ultra talented. I thought they could be, I even looked at myself and was like, oh, they're better than me and this and that. And those individuals, unfortunately, never reached their potential. Even though they were talented, right? Because every human being's got talent. Let's be clear with that, right? I don't care what color you are, what your economic situation is, where you live at. Every human being has talent.
If you like what you hear and want to join us on this journey of making uncomfortable conversations comfortable, please subscribe to a Black Executive Perspective podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe now to stay connected for more episodes that challenge, inspire, and lead the change.
However, the majority of people don't reach their talent. They don't tap into it and really it takes off and takes them to levels that they never even saw before. So the question I have for you, give me 3 common barriers that you've seen, right? That you saw that's holding people back, right? And then how can they overcome them?
Yeah. The first one that comes to mind is, and I talked about this earlier, is consistency, right? It doesn't matter how much talent you have. If you're not consistent in doing the actions that are going to help you grow, it's just going to be wasted talent, right?
Right.
So, and for consistent, that means something different to everyone, right? For me, it means I'm getting up early, a certain time every day. I'm starting off my day the same way. I'm trying to go about my week in a consistent, just having a level of consistency there. I think definitely helps. Setting goals for yourself and having a plan is also super important. You got to have a plan. Actually, one of the things that my wife and I are doing next weekend is we are sitting down, and as a family, we're planning out 2025 in terms of like what are our goals as a family? What are our goals financially? What do we want? Where do we want to take the kids on trips? Like all of those things. You got to have a plan. And again, that goes back to treating your professional and personal life like a business, right? You gotta have a plan. And then I would say the third one is having a positive mindset. I think so often, so many people let negative thoughts creep into your head, have negative people that are super negative surrounding them all the time. And I try to stay positive as much as I can. And so I'm very conscious about the people that I let into my life and what is their outlook. And then I'm very conscious about how much I'm in here because, the person that we all speak to the most on a day-to-day basis is ourselves. We are in here all the time. And I read a stat, I think it's something like 80% of the things that we worry about never happen. Never happen. Right. Yeah. And so I think that that's super important too, to try to stay positive and stay out of your own head and really focus on what you can control.
Got it. That is awesome, buddy. I love it. So look, my man, final thoughts. I mean, look, you came on guns blazing, right? Even though, Jersey people, I don't know, but, I'm going to change my mind right now, right? Because Kerel came on and he's kicking butt, but I'm just joking, man. Final thoughts. What do you want to leave with the audience, my brother?
Yeah. If you are in a position, a couple of things. One, if you're in a position of privilege, right? Think about how you're mentoring people, thinking about, how can you help someone who's trying to climb the ladder of success, get there, right? That's one thing I want to leave people with. The second thing is if you've got room for another podcast in your portfolio, folks out there, take a listen to mine. Minority Report podcast, where we interview diverse individuals, diverse leaders across business, media, and technology, and come on over and check us out sometimes.
Hey, so I'm glad you brought that up. Tell us a little bit about the Minority Report podcast. How long you've been doing it? What inspired you to do it?
Yeah.
Before we close out, tell us that, my brother.
Okay. Yeah. So Minority Report podcast, me and my co-host Eric Rickenden, we've been doing the podcast since 2018. So what is that, 6 years, going on 7 years soon. We are both men of color in the ad tech and martech space. And the way Eric and I met was out networking. We would always see each other at events. We would always either be the only 2 men of color or very few of us. And, we'd always see each other across the room and be like, yep, I see you. You see me? Yeah, I see you.
Not easy, not hard to find you.
Not hard to find us.
All right.
And then on top of that, there'd be even less of us on stages at these events. And so he and I said, you know what, instead of just complaining about it to each other, let's do something about it. And so we created our platform to give people space to tell their story. And it's a podcast about that individual's background, upbringing, lived experiences, advice, so on and so forth. And we've done pretty well with it. We're up to about 185 episodes now. We've won a couple of awards for the work that we do on it, and so yeah, it's been a great run. And I've been able to meet new and interesting people like you, Tony. We met on my
Exactly,
podcast
on your
as well
podcast.
too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, going back to, I'd never thought of it that way, but going back to my point about networking, right? That's a tool that I've been able to use for networking as well too.
Exactly. And it's a great show. And again, if you guys have not checked it out, please do. I mean, here's the thing, and this goes back to Chris's point earlier, right? Is that you have a podcast, I have a podcast. One of our partners, Code M Magazine, they have a magazine publication. We're not in competition here, right? We're all trying to do the exact same thing, elevate stories.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, this is what we call brotherly love, and this goes back to, we're not stiff arming each other and trying to keep people at bay.
Right.
We're all working together, coming together, because more importantly, we're trying to solve problems.
Absolutely.
Right. And share what people are doing, like Kerel Cooper, all right, what they're doing. And then more importantly, the people like Kerel Cooper coming on here and saying how you can be able to do the exact same thing by him sharing his story.
But no, I think that it's a positive. One of the things that you said, and that was a great way to wrap it up, was that being positive and embracing positivity is gravitational. Mm-hmm. And if you put that out there, it'll come back to you. And you have to just stay focused and stay diligent. And you've done that, and you've maximized it. And like Tony said, this is just the beginning for where you're headed. So I'm looking forward to observing the journey.
Appreciate it. Absolutely.
Well, final question to you, buddy. How can BEP help you?
Oh, wow. Let's keep the lines of communication open here. Let's continue this brotherhood here. Let's connect. Let's share notes on podcasting, on business, and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's it.
It's done, buddy. That's simple.
Absolutely. Well, we want to thank you, Mr. Kerel Cooper, and we want to thank the audience for tuning in and getting a slice of inspiration from you. And so I think it's time.
I think it's time now for
Tony's Tidbit.
All right. And as you guys know, the Tidbit is always based on our episodes. So today's Tidbit, and I quote, "The best mentors don't just point the way. They walk the journey with you, helping clear obstacles and illuminate paths." And you heard a lot of that from our brother, our friend, Kerel Cooper, and his journey, but also what he does to help unlock the potential in other human beings. So he's going to help us with our call to action. So stay right there.
At this point in time, we also like to absolutely remind you to tune into a Black Executive Perspective segment called Need to Know with Dr. Nasinga Burton. Dr. Burton provides a unique, educated, passionate, resolute commentary on different topics, things that shape and provide our world with such context that you have to listen to her take on these things. Make sure that you tune in each week to Need to Know with Dr. Nasinga Burton. You don't want to miss it. You
definitely don't want to miss it. And you don't want to miss this too, our call to action. Our goal, and Kerel, when he started his podcast 7-8 years ago, he had the same goal, right? Our goal is to eliminate all forms of discrimination, right? And we've come up with an acronym called LESS. And we're asking everyone to be able to participate, because this is something in all of our control. Everyone can do this. Kerel, please kick us off, my brother.
Yeah, sure. So the L stands for learn. Educate yourself on racial and cultural nuances. And the reason why I think that is so important is because the more we can learn about each other, the better off we will be as a human race and society as a whole.
Absolutely. And then after you learn, the next letter is E, which stands for empathy. So now you've learned what your fellow friends and colleagues and family is going through. Now you can be able to empathize with them because you understand their perspective.
The first S is for share. Don't hide it, divide it. You want to share your insights and enlighten others. And the opportunity that you've just learned You want to make sure you proliferate that knowledge and spread it to the next person so they can then in turn spread it to the next.
Absolutely. And then after that, the final S is stop. We want to actively stop discrimination as it walks in our path. So if Auntie Jenny says something inappropriate at the Sunday dinner table, you say, Auntie Jenny, we don't believe that. We don't say that. And you stop it right there. So if everyone can incorporate less, LESS, we'll build a more fair, more understanding world, and we'll all be able to see the change that we want to see because less will become more.
We want to remind you to tune in to future episodes. Check out previous episodes. Check out other podcasts, that like the Minority Report where Tony has been featured, and make sure that you support that as well. Go to our website, sign up for the newsletter, review us and subscribe. Give us some information so we can know where to meet you and make sure we provide you good content. Tony, where can they reach us?
My friend, you can follow a Black Executive Perspective podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And you can follow us on our socials of Instagram, LinkedIn, X, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook at A Black Exec. For our fabulous guest, the CMO who knows the most, okay? Our friend Kerel Cooper. For the co-host who knows the most, that's my boy Chris P. Reed. I'm glad you joined us today. We talked about it. We laughed about it. We love you. And guess what? We're out.
A Black Executive Perspective.